Works. Okay, cool. All right. So basically, I'm going to share screen with this. Now, are you guys going to be doing most everything virtually, or are you going to be like out in the field, actually seeing members?
I think it's going to be maybe 60-40 with me.
60-40, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
60 and then 40.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I'm kind of down with the latter.
Okay. The reason why I ask is you can explain it on the computer the same way you're explaining it at house, so it's not really going to matter. But there's just a little bit easier of a connection with the no-cost stuff when you're in the house with somebody.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, the no-cost benefits, I want you to know, like off the bat, like we're not getting paid to show people these things. What they're designed to do is like basically two things. They're designed to build trust with the company and build up the company. You know, the reason why we're out to see them is to get them all this extra stuff. And then the second reason is to build rapport and to dig for information that we're going to use down the road. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like the
Right.
pre-qualifying questions.
Exactly. Right. So the no cost benefits, and keep in mind too that not everybody's going to get every single no cost benefit. Right. So you might sit down with people who are child safe kids. Those people typically won't get an accidental death and dismemberment certificate. They're not in the union. Right. So you won't have to go over that part with them. Won't have to go over the will kit with them either because they didn't apply for that part of the program. Right. Now, if down the road that you're doing the presentation and it's something that interests them, you could definitely go over it with them. You know, it just builds interest with us, right? Builds credibility. Now, the one person that would typically get almost every benefit would be a union member, though. So they would get an accidental certificate, child safety kits if they needed them. We would go over the health services card with them. And then we would also go over the family information guide with them. So, and then the last no cost benefit would be the needs analysis, right? That survey there. I'm sure you guys have been in presentation with you and saw it. I know Cody has seen it as well. So that's, you know, like the last no cost benefit we do go over. It's a different kind of benefit that we do go over. So it takes a little bit of practice to do that one. But what we're going to go over today are all the child safety kits, the family information guide, the will kit, and then the accidental death and dismemberment certificate too. So I might have to find one of those, but other than that, I have everything else here. So the order of them, not too important, but the way I go over it, I don't know if Gio does the same thing. Not really gonna matter too much which order you go into, but I usually go child safety kits, health services card, family information guide, life insurance. All right. Just that order, it kind of breaks them down for, you know, people we're talking to and sitting down with, from like least intrusive information to most intrusive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we're kind of guiding them down a path, right? And some people just go straight into the life insurance, like with the accidental certificate. But I mean, if you're a kid and you're crying and you want attention, like the parent gives them the thing that they want the most right then and there, it'll stop them, but they won't be paying attention anymore, right? So we want to kind of use that down the road because that's what the main reason why we're out there, right? The meat and potatoes of everything there is the accidental certificate and their additional coverage, right? So like that's why I was saying is you're not really going to make any money from no cost benefits. Like I don't want you to go out there and be a no cost delivery person. You're not really going to make any money, but they're great for certain things. They're great for like collecting referrals. They're great for building your confidence through the presentation, building rapport, building up the company, right? So the first no cost benefit I usually go over is the child safety kit, right? So when you're going over any of the no cost benefits, and there's three things that you want to accomplish when you're going over any of the no cost benefits. And they're just saying no matter what benefit it is, right? The first thing you want to do is you want to make that benefit important, right? You got to make that person interested in that part of the benefit, right? It's easier said than done a lot of the times, but the script is designed to get them interested in it. Now, if somebody's like, yeah, I don't need that, you know, okay, you might need it, you know, but don't bash them over the head with it. If they don't need it, then they don't need it. You know, if they're a single person and they live by themselves and don't have kids, you know, don't have a spouse, significant other, then child safety gets typically not going to be too much of an issue with, but the health services card, family information guide, things like that, people see benefit in that stuff, right? So the first thing you want to do is make them see a benefit in it, make it important to them, right? So the second thing you're going to do with every single no cost benefit is you're going to kind of walk them through it briefly. So like explain how it works. And the more in depth you go with it, I don't want to say the better the presentation, because I like to get through them pretty quickly, but I like to say that the more in depth you get with their questions that they ask, the better off. If they don't really ask you questions, then just assume that they understand how it works and move forward. If they're asking you questions, answer the questions. That's what you're there for, A lot of their questions will be very simple to answer. And I'm going to ask you guys if you have questions, and typically your questions that you ask me will be the same ones that they ask, right? So, and then the third thing that you're going to do of every one of the no cost benefits is collect referrals, right? So you're going to get them to see the benefit of it. You're going to explain how it works, and then they're going to get other people involved with it as well. All right, now the referrals that you collect from our no cost benefits, they're typically better sit downs. They're usually better sales. The closing ratio is better, makes your job easier, right? So I would always tell people a bulk of your referrals are going to come from the child safety kits alone. You'll get the most out of that. You'll get some of the referrals on the new AI Plus card, which is pretty cool. And then the Will Kit program as well. You'll get some referrals from the Will Kit program, and we're going to go over a little bit later the areas where you're going to collect referrals at after I get done with the no cost, because that's a big part of this business as well. It's like one of the cheat codes. Right? I'm sure you guys, I don't know if you played video games before, right? There's like cheat codes you can put in. Yeah. Like referrals is a big cheat code, and then recruiting is another big cheat code, right? So, but the first benefit I usually go over with them is the child safety kits. Most people have kids, this is something big. The way I explain it to them in our script, and it's pretty very similar to your guys' is I say, this is the first no cost benefit they had set up for you, right? It's your child safety kit. So even if you look on the screen in the PowerPoint, it does have the whole child safety kit opened up. So when you open the kit, it's like a trifold. So it opens up like that. All right, so that's the front, that's the back. All right. Yeah. So the first thing to do with the child safety kit is make it important. Why are we going over this? Right. So this is where you're going to hit them with some facts. Right. You usually tell them, first thing I start off with asking them was, I'm sure you guys know some people with kids, right? Like Herstine, I'm sure you guys know people with kids, right? Right. You're going to like this first benefit that they have set up for you. Right. It's actually a child safety kit. Now, as you can see on the front, it's actually endorsed by the teachers and police unions. Right. It's a seal right on the front there. Right. And the reason why this is designed is that 450,000 children go missing or abducted every single year. Right. And the scary fact is that 93% of those children that don't come home after 24 hours don't come home at all. All right. So that's why these kits were designed. All right. So I always ask the parent, now I'm sure you've been in a situation where, maybe you were in a grocery store or a department store where, you took your eyes off the child for maybe 1 minute, 30 seconds to go grab your wallet and pay. And then your son or daughter ran away, right? They might have only been gone for 5 minutes, 3 minutes while you were searching for them. But that 3 minutes maybe felt like 3 hours to that person, especially if you're panicking and you got other kids, right? I grew up with five brothers, right? So my mom, I don't know if you can imagine her, we used to walk to the grocery store. I used to get the same speech every single time. Don't touch nothing. I'm not behind you nothing. Saying, don't leave your hand off that cart, right? So there was many times where we just ran away, and I remember being in department stores. We play, I have 5 brothers. We play hide and seek in department stores, like in the clothes racks, So I know it goes on, and it is a funny thing to think about, but at the end of the day, it's very scary as a parent in that situation, right? So I'm not a parent myself. I don't know if you guys are parents. I know Cody is. It's a scary situation, The scary fact is that if they leave your site for just that second, that's all it really takes, But that's why the kits were designed for all of our parents. So the first thing I go over with them is I make sure that I make it personal to them. So I use their kid's name, right? So I would say, now, Joe, the way you fill this out is actually what's your daughter's name? Susie, okay. So Susie, you're gonna put Susie's name on the front there, and then the date it's completed on, right? Now, Joe, on the inside is actually where all of Susie's information is gonna go, right? So I just walk them through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? It's pretty simple. The first thing I say is their personal information, right? So that would be anything that's gonna be height, weight, eye color, hair color. Anything that's gonna change, you're gonna put in pencil so you can just quickly erase it and change it. Anything that's permanent, you're gonna put in pen. So like blood type, address, things like that, put that in pen, right? Number 2 would be the physical description of the child, right? So Susie's physical description, glasses, braces, scars, birthmarks, anything like that. So there's a little character here you can mark it on, and then actually type, and they can actually write it into like scar on the left cheek or something like that, right? Number 3 would be a DNA sample. So that would be a hair follicle or fingernails, right? So police don't want spit or blood there, right? I tell them, police don't want that there. It's gross. Number 1. Number 2, you're gonna look pretty crazy if you have your child's blood all over the place, right? But I usually tell the parents now, I'm sure your kid's never bad, right? And they'll sarcastically go, no, never bad, right? I'm sure they're angels, right? So I would say next time they're being bad, instead of actually grabbing their whole head of hair, right? Just pluck 1 or 2 out, right? And then tape it down, right? You could do that every 6 to 8 months. So I'm sure they're bad about it. I'm sure they act up probably out twice a year, right? There you go. You got an excuse to just kind of rip their hair, right? So all they got to do is keep that updated every 6 to 8 months. All right. And I usually get them laughing a little bit right there. Number 4 would be the fingerprint information. So every one of these kits comes with a police grade ink strip. So the ink strip's non-toxic. It'll never harm them. They could lick it if they wanted to. It wouldn't harm them at all, but it's extremely messy and it's permanent. Okay. Not permanent on your fingers because of the oil on your skins, but if they got it on like the desk or the wall or the carpet or the floor or the couch, not coming off, right? And this is very real. Like, please don't test me on this. My brother, who thought it was a great idea, he was like, no way, I'll get it off. I was like, okay, right? He messed up and put it on his table, like on his kitchen table, right? This was 3 years ago, right? I came back a year after, to see if it was still there. It's still there, but his wife just has like a tablecloth running across the middle now. So like ruined their whole table because he tried to test this theory, and I told him it wouldn't work, right? So just believe me when I tell them. I always tell parents, like, I don't want to have to come back and paint your house, right? I don't have to come out there and be charged to clean the couch. I told you that it is permanent. So my suggestion is you guys do it either right before bath time or in the shower or outside, like on the porch or something like that. Because typically the first thing young kids do is touch their face or their hands or their body or their mouth when they have something with their fingers. It happens. Let's just make sure it's not permanent, okay? So each kit comes with its own strip. Now the strips open pretty quickly. There's like a little clear tab on the top. If you just pinch it, it'll pop right open. And you don't have to like press very hard on them. All you have to do is just touch each finger. You don't have to roll the finger either. Just pretty quick, bow, 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 bow. I always tell parents too to give it a couple seconds to dry, because if you pay attention to it, it does overlap when you close it, and sometimes it smears. So I've gotten calls back from parents saying, hey, I filled out the kits and I closed it and it smeared. We need another one. Okay, go back out there, right? But that's one, just a little piece of advice on the inside there. And then I tell them, I say now, do you guys have any questions on the inside, how the inside of the package works? And I'm going, no. Like, okay, great. So then I kind of click back if I'm doing it virtually, or I kind of just close it if I'm doing it in person. I'll show them that this is where a spot where the photo ID for the child goes, right? So what the police and firefighters suggest is that you use a headshot of the child. So like a school photo, or like, I don't know, a photo that you have, your favorite photo of them. I'm sure you got I always ask the parents that, I'm sure you got a million photos lying around with kids. You're going to get a million more down the road. Just cut one out, paper it in. Now, I would suggest the parents keep this updated every 6 to 8 months as well. Once they turn about 13, 14, you could probably do about once a year. You could probably see changes. But when they're younger, they're growing very rapidly every 6 to 8 months. Okay. And then one piece of advice too is like, if you're on this part, they don't want like a group shot. Like if you're in a photo with like all your cousins, something like that, then don't put that one in there. just use one that's a headshot of the child. Okay. And then the last thing I go over with them is important tips for parents on the back here. So number one, I tell them, make sure your kids know how to call 911, know your address, know how to deal with that situation. Teach the kids about the dangers of strangers, not just walking up to anybody who knows their name. And then the number 3 one on there is one I go over every single time. Don't put the kid's name on your backpack or lunchbox or jacket. That's the easiest way for a predator to know what that kid's name is, especially if they're younger. Kids are very gullible. All they do is they hear their name and they're going to that person, right? All that person has to do is say, hey, Susie, your mother actually told me to come pick you up from school. She can't make it today, but I'll drive you home. Come on in the car. That's all it takes, right? It's very scary that's all it takes. But if the name's not on the backpack, you don't have to worry about it, okay? And then at the bottom here as well, there's a 1-800 number that you can call, if you need some more kits or if you have to get them redistributed to you. So actually what I'm going to have you do is I'm actually going to have you, Joe, I'm going to have you grab your cell phone. I just have some very important information I need you to put into it, okay? So I have them grab their cell phone, right? If they're on Zoom, they can swipe out of Zoom real quick and they can, put the contacts in. I said, what you're going to do, Joe, is you're going to open up a new contact and you're going to save it as child safety kits, right? And you can either give them the number on the back here. You can give them the office number, either or. I usually give them the number on the back, right? That'll actually give them to a number to home office where they can get more kits. So if the kits need updated, they're damaged, you lose them, you have more kids down the road, all you're going to do is call that phone number and they can get more out to you. So once they have that saved in their contacts, I'm like, okay, great. So Mary and Joe, do you guys have any questions on how your child safety kits would work? Right? They tell me no. I'm like, okay, great. Right? So do you guys have any questions on how the child safety kits work? Pretty easy, right? All right. So if something were to happen, all the parents going to do is they're going to grab this kit where they have it saved at. They're going to give it to the police. And it's going to save 4 to 6 hours of them looking for this information. Because, to be honest with you, if something happens to that kid, the parent's not thinking height, weight, eye color, hair color. They're thinking who they're with, where they could be at, panicking for at least an hour. That's an hour, right? And the national stats are that every minute that child is away from home is a mile that they could be, right? And in Chicago, 60 miles, you're in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
In a whole nother state. Right, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, in Pittsburgh, they could be in 3 different states in half an hour.
Yeah.
Right, that's rough.
Yeah.
So in Chicago, in Illinois ranks top 10 for child abductions.
What was that stat? 'Cause that's a good one about Wisconsin. How long did you say?
I'd say it's
60 miles.
Yeah, it's every minute that the child's away from home is another mile that they could be. Right, so it's just where you're at geography wise. Right. If you're in Pennsylvania, like I said, it's three different states, and you're here, you could definitely be in Wisconsin by then. I've driven up there. It takes an hour.
Yeah.
But the real stats are the time it takes that parent to get this information to the police, right? Because typically on hand, they don't have their fingerprints on hand. Typically on hand, they don't have the right height and weight. They might have eye color, hair color. Right? They might have a picture in their phone of what they look like, but if the officers just have everything right here, what they do is they basically just going to take a picture of this, take a picture of this, and they can quickly distribute it to every other officer in the area so they can get that good blanket of coverage and get that kid found. Right? So explaining it to them that way will typically make sure that they understand the benefit of having it. That does half the battle. Because number one, you want to make sure it's important to them. And number two, we're going to explain why it's important, right? Now, if they typically see importance in it, they're going to refer other people to get it as well.
Do you see that a lot of times, like people who have older kids, like say 15 and up, aren't as interested, or are they still?
Yeah, it is a little 50-50 at that point with that. It depends. I even say, to kind of flip it against them, I even say now your kids are kind of even more independent now.
Yeah.
So it might be even a better idea to keep this.
Yeah.
A lot of parents think it's for little kids, but to be honest with you, little kids typically don't leave your side. but it's the 14, the 15, the 16-year-old kids who are out doing what they want to do.
Those are the ones lying about their whereabouts.
Exactly. So this always, I always just tell them something like that.
In a nice way, but
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I usually be real with them. Like, typically I was a kid, you were a kid once, right? What did you do at 14, 15, right? Your parents told you not to do something, you probably did that thing, just to make sure, like, the oven's hot. I don't know if it's hot or not. Boom, okay, it's definitely hot, right? But I mean, if it's an older kid, you just tell them, hey, they still haven't filled out for kids in college, up to age 18. So, but that's a good question, very good question. Now, anybody, you have any other questions on the child safety kits at all? No, we're good.
Yeah.
Cody, any questions, buddy? No? Okay. All right, now the one thing I do tell the parents is I tell them where to keep it at. I should always keep it in the freezer, or like a safe.
yeah.
Freezer?
In the freezer, right?
Okay.
So if number one, if the house burns down, the freezer is usually the last thing that's still there. The fridge and the freezer are still there, right? Number two, right? It keeps the DNA preserved a little bit longer. I'm sure you've watched like cold case files or something like that where DNA is preserved for a little bit longer because it was frozen, right? And number three is a little bit of a joke. Like, my best friends are Ben and Jerry's. So if your best friends are Ben and Jerry like me, you're probably in there every day, so you'll see the child safety kits, right? But you can just tell them like, hey, I'm sure you're in the freezer every single day. As parents, typically they're in the freezer every single day. You'll see the child safety kits hanging on the drawer. You'll know that they're in there. So if an emergency happens, where did I see those kits? Boom, in the freezer. You see them every day. All right, it's just an easy way to recognize where they're at. Some people keep things locked away and they forget that they're locked away. This at least is there every day, So freezer is usually a good place to keep it. And then once I answer all their questions about the child safety kits, my main job now here is to collect referrals. So I already have their phone in their hand, right? Because I told them to go get their phone, told them to actually put down a contact. You can almost tell you're going to get referrals if you can get them to get their phone and actually put a contact in their phone, because you're gaining a little bit of control right there. You're having them do something, right? Every small little thing that you have them do in the presentation, when you have to ask them to go get their checkbook, it becomes a very small yes, right? Now, if you don't ask them to do anything and you're like, go get your checkbook and your license, they're like, why? Right? What if I tell them to go grab some water or go get this, go get that, move the camera this way a little bit? They're used to doing things already. So they're like, okay, whatever, right? I've seen it happen. I've done it in the house many times, right? So once we have their phone in their hand, the next thing we want to do is we want to collect referrals, right? So what I always do is I put it on the system. I put it on the firefighters and police and teachers units. And so I say, now, Mary and Joe, this is actually where, the police and firefighters, they ask that you do your part in the community, right? They're not asking for any monetary donations, so we don't have to worry about that, right? But what they are asking is that you do your part in the community by sponsoring a minimum of 10 families to receive their child safety kits as well, right? So the easiest way they found to do this is actually while you have your phone out right there to kind of work from the A through the Z's. That way we don't forget about anybody, right? So I know you actually mentioned that your brother also had 2 kids, right? Let's start with him. Your brother's name's Joe, right? Right. So and he has a boy and a girl, right? Okay, yeah. So now is he a 773 or a 312? 312. Okay. Right. So I'm assuming that first one every single time. Right. That's the best way to start collecting referrals, is assume that first one. Right. If you just say, hey, I need 10 people to get this child safety kit out to, they're gonna be like, no. Right. But if you build up the need enough and they see a value in it and you say those words. So Mary and Joe, now the police, they aren't asking for any monetary donations for these kits. They don't want any money, right? What they are asking though is that you do your part in the community by sponsoring a minimum of 10 families to receive their kits for free as well, right? So, who can you think of that actually can benefit from these kits, right? And even throw out some suggestions. So if that's why when we're building rapport with them, we're asking them about their family, asking about their brothers and sisters, asking if they have nieces and nephews, right? So when they tell us that, I use that as ammunition down here, right here. So every little thing that we're doing is small psychology building to where we want to get them to go, right? Kind of leading them through a process here. So once you get one referral down on a piece of paper, the second one's easier. You know, you got one down. Okay, who else can you think of? You know what? Grab your phone. You know, sure you know a couple people. Might get a few objections here. The first one's typically, you know, I don't feel comfortable giving you out my friends' phone numbers. Right? You might get that. That typically stems from not building enough rapport with that person. They don't feel comfortable with you enough. Now you can get by that and still make a sale down the road. You can still build rapport through the whole presentation and still make that sale. But we didn't collect really any referrals, and that sale really didn't branch out to anything else, right? Main goal is to have that one person refer a couple other people, right? Especially if you didn't make the sale, you at least want to go see a couple other people, right? Now, once you get that objection of you know, I don't feel comfortable with that, you know, or hey, you know, I'll call them and I'll let you know. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? You know, the only thing we would have to actually have from you would be their name and then a contact phone number and how many kits I would need to get out to them. So all I have to do is actually give them a phone call and then get them on my schedule, right? I'll even ask them if they're interested. You know, if they're not interested, don't worry about it. We'll cross them off here. But I at least want to make sure they get the child safety kits for free, right? You know, you can answer it a bunch of different ways. You know, the one way that I use almost every single time, it's very effective. It's called feel, felt, found. You can almost use this method for anything, but it works really well here. You know, feel, you know, you want to empathize with them, right? So I understand how you feel, Mary. You know, I understand how you feel about not giving out people's names and phone numbers. I understand that, right? You know, you're not the only member that ever felt that way, right? You're including them with other people so they don't feel left out. You know, you're not going to go, you didn't give me any referrals, you weirdo, right? You're gonna include them with other people, right? And then, you know, I'll ask her like, hey, so Mary, what we actually found out through doing this is that the most effective way to get these child safety kits into parents' hands is for parents to actually sponsor other parents, right? It'll actually bump them to the top of the list, right? So you can even tell them back at home office, we're still processing requests. You know, we're still processing requests from February. So if we want to get your brother or sister to the top of the list, right? If they sent one through home office and it took the long route, they would have to wait months to get their kids, right? This way I can actually get them out to them pretty quickly, right? You say your brother Joe, he has 2 kids, right? So that's another way that you just like move right into it. So feel, felt, found, right? Empathize with them, include them, and then let them know that, you know, the best way to do this is this, right? But when you're collecting referrals, you kind of want to make it fun with them too, especially with the child safety kits. You want to make it fun, make it like kind of a little game. So what I used to do when I was in the home with people is I would get like scratch off lottery tickets. So I would go to, like, if I was out in the field, I would go to the store and get $5, you know, $1 scratch off lottery tickets. And I was in the house and I would say, hey, if you get to 10 people, if you sponsor up to 10 people, I actually give you, I use the word like the company gives me the opportunity to give you a chance to win $10,000, right? And they're like, okay, great, right? And they get 10 down, and I just pull out a lottery ticket and it says, you know, 1 in 10,000 chance to win $10,000, right? It's a $1 scratch off. And I've had someone win $45 before. I've had someone win $100 in front of you before. Right? It's cool.
Okay.
And it costs you $5.
Yeah.
It costs you $1. If $1 costs you 10 referrals, I'll do that all day. It's 10 cents a referral, right? Now, that number 10, people are generally going to give you half of what you ask for. All right, so if you say 10, they're probably going to give you 5, right? That's 5 more than you had before. But the goal is to get them up to 10. So once they start rolling, it's pretty easy to kind of take over from there. Like, you want to make it fun, so you want to kind of build them up with it. If that makes sense. So you want to coach them through getting the rest of them.
Like, oh, who's Susie's best friend? Okay,
Yeah.
you need to get ones for her mom. Like,
Exactly. That offers suggestions up to them. Like, you got 4 down here, Joe. Who's number 5? All right, 5 down. You're halfway done. You got number 6. Perfect. Now 7. Who's 7? 8, okay, you got 2 more spots. You only got 2 more spots. Who else you got? Right? One more. You can only sponsor 1 more. Who else you got, Joe? Right? No, get them all in, coach them up to that. Right? So if this takes you an extra 5 to 10 minutes to do that, it's so worth it, guys. It's so worth it. I would never tell you to fly through not asking for referrals. Right? One big thing that I usually in my career, I sold a lot of child safety kit referrals. That's one of the big things that I'll never discredit a child safety kit ever, because they lead to so much. You know, typically a child safe lead is a great lead because they're typically a parent who has insurable interest. They're younger typically, right? And typically they don't have any idea about life insurance at all. So you're getting to be an expert right off the bat to somebody who may or may not be in a situation that needs it. You know, I sit down with a lot of child safety kits members that need it, that want it, can't afford it, or can't qualify for it. So it's give and take there, right? But it does help young families get the access to the education that they need on it. So it's a very great, very great program. It's one of my favorites, right?
Why wouldn't a younger family be able to qualify? Like, because I know the qualifying questions and such, but it seems mostly like health related.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if
That'd be
they're
it.
like a younger family, everyone's in like decent health.
Yeah, if everyone's in good health, they're okay, you know? But there's some families out there that I've met 21-year-olds who can't get policies, you know, on dialysis, you know, things like that. Like if they've had cancer in the past couple of years, you know, there's a lot of different things, height, weight requirements, you know, there's a lot of things that they can't get rated for, you know? But a lot of it just depends on the underwriting. You're right, medical underwriting is where they probably wouldn't qualify for it, you know? But that's kind of the basis of the child safety kits. Now it took like maybe half an hour to walk you guys through it. So, but usually I spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes on it, right? Now, you have any questions on the child safety kits, collect referrals off of it or anything like that? Okay. The last thing I want to do with the child safety kits is teach you about rolling those referrals. So actually calling them when they're in the home, right? So main thing you want to do is actually have that person contact them in the home, right? Because think about it. If a random stranger is calling you, you're probably not going to answer that number, right? But if your friend's calling you, like, what's up? How you doing? Right? Like it works on Zoom. I've done it on Zoom. I've done it in person. All you gotta do is get them to call and say, hey, so like Joe, you sponsored 10 people here. I'm gonna do my best to make sure I get out to all 10 of those people. I'll promise you that I'll try to make sure I get out to every one of them, right? So, but there are about 100 more members that I do have to see as well. So I'd really be squeezing them into my schedule, right? Now, Joe, if there was 3 people on this list that you 100% wanted me to get out to, who would those 3 people be? I have them narrow down 3 people. So Joe, you got those 3 people there. Hey, you know, the easiest way that they found to make sure these get out effectively is actually just go ahead and call them right now so I can put them on my schedule, so I can save time for them on my schedule. So Joe, go ahead and call your sister Susie right now and make sure that we can put her on my schedule today. And he'll call. The funny thing is, if you have enough control, they'll call. All right, and once they call, they'll probably say something like, Susie, hey, it's Joe. You know, I got this guy here going over my benefits through my union, going over some child safety kits or something like that. And either if I'm sitting there with him in person, I'll motion like, give me the phone. Like, let me give you the phone, and I'll put it on speaker. Or if he's through Zoom, I'll be like, okay, just put it on speaker. I'll talk to her. And he puts it on speaker and holds it up to I've had a guy like hold it up to the microphone like this, so I can talk to her, you know. But that's all you have to do at that point. And then from there, you guys know how to set an appointment, right? Same thing. Hey, Mary, you know, I'm Drew. I'm with American Income, taking care of these child safety kits. I'm sitting down with your brother here now, and he's able to get them out to you for free. He mentioned you have 2 kids, right? Perfect. Okay. So I'm actually going to be in your area over the next couple of days, taking care of this for everybody. You know, I'll be out there Friday and Saturday. Which day works better for you? Friday, perfect. On Friday, I have between 5 and 6, or a little later between 8 and 9. Which one of those is better? 8 and 9, perfect, right? And I'll book her on my schedule. What's your email address, right? So it's just really a normal phone call after that. Once you already have them on the phone, but it's so much easier to get in contact with them. Now that might take another 5 minutes, but if you set 2 or 3 appointments from that 5 minutes, it saves you an hour calling, an hour, you know? So the people who are more successful here roll appointments right out of other appointments. Done it many times. I've rolled up from brothers to sisters' houses that live 3 blocks from each other. I didn't even like I didn't even like unpark my car. I just walked in my car, grabbed another folder, and walked to our house. It's awesome when it happens. Now, it's not gonna happen every single time that you say that, right? You just have to remember that. But the more times you say it, the more people you say it to, the more you're gonna get.
You don't know what you said.
Exactly. So on average, you should be collecting anywhere from I would say conservatively 20 to 50 child safe referrals every single week. There's a lot of people out there with kids, right? So if you think about that, if you just do the average in there like 30, you get 30 referrals every single week from child safe. At the end of the month, that's 120 new people you get to see. That's a brand new lead pack every single month. Fresh new people you get to see, you know? I don't know a better way to get more leads in your hands than that right there. Because at the end of the day, the leads are really designed for you to make other leads. One of the easiest ways to do it is child safe kits, okay? So that's all I'm gonna go over the child safe kits. You guys are good on that? Yeah. Okay. So the only thing I don't have for you physical in person would be the discount cards. So they just redid the discount cards. They're brand new. They just came out in July. So the way, once again, remember, make it important, explain how it works, collect referrals. Say, Mary and Joe, your next no cost benefit they had set up for you, was your AIL Plus discount card. All right. So I always tell them, they spent the last, 3 years and a couple of $1 million developing a better program than they had last year. So this discount card, I always tell them really big on the front, it says it's not insurance. So tell them this is not health insurance. It's not going to replace your current insurance. So don't go canceling your current health insurance. Right? This is going to work above and beyond that. All right, so this is going to take care of anything you pay out of pocket for your pharmacy, your chiropractor, your vision, dental, and it even works with diabetic supplements. So the way I have our team do it is I just have them kind of click through the slide to where the next screen kind of shows them some of the basics that they can work with. All right, so it saves about 85% at the pharmacy, up to 85% at the pharmacy, 20 to 60% on glasses. Chiropractic visits are free. It works with Humana as dental, and it does save on diabetic supplements, right? So if they're wearing glasses, notice that, tell them, hey, next time you go get glasses, take a look into this. You could use it, save some money. All right, the main reason why we want to go over this discount card with people is we want to kind of give them a quick health check. All right, so if I asked them, Mary and Joe, do you guys take any prescription medications? You guys take a lot, do you take a lot of prescriptions, Mary and Joe? No? Okay, pretty healthy. Okay, good. This card can still save you some money on things like, the chiropractor if you have to go there, or, if your vision gets worse down the road. But if they say, yeah, I take a lot of medications. Okay, great. Well, this actually works at your pharmacy, save some money on those prescriptions. And I don't know if you use diabetic supplements, but you can have that too taken care of. So
and then at that point, are you are you actually checking that off in the questions to not revisit, or you're just mental notes?
I'm taking mental notes.
Okay.
Mental notes. So I know that if they told me to take a lot of prescriptions, I'm like, okay, might not be the greatest candidate. I might have to go through some medication questions so I don't get my hopes up too much. If they're in good health, I'm like, okay, great, let's keep this rolling. Let's keep this rolling, But also I kind of why I ask that, because I personalize it too,
for sure.
But I mean, the benefits are there. The great thing about the cars is it doesn't cost them $1. They get it for free. And it lasts for a whole year. So next year they'll get another renewal if they need it. I'm sure you guys have seen discount renewal leads, maybe not, I don't know. No, okay. It just says discount card renewal on it. But the AIL Plus card works for every single member in that household. So one card will take care of everybody. Now, it used to actually be a physical card that they would send out to everybody, but it's not a physical card anymore. It's actually an app. So there's an app in the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. It says AIL Plus. So anybody can download this app, right? In order to download the app, though, they need to have a verification email from our home office, right? So during the needs analysis, the top part of the needs analysis says AIL Plus discount card on it. You have to fill out that top part of the information. Once you get through the whole application, sale or no sale, you'll delete it off your computer. You'll either transmit it to home office, or if it's no sale, you'll delete it. Once that's deleted, it'll send an email to our home office, telling our home office to send that person an email to verify their account. Once they verify it in their email address, they'll be able to get the AIL Plus card. Right, so there's no actual physical card sent out. All they're going to get is an email in a couple of days, letting them know that, hey, you got approved for the card. They're going to approve everybody. And here's the code to log in. Right, so pretty cool. It's super easy to get on. I have it. You guys can get it. It's not very hard. Do an e-app for yourself. Send it through. You get it. It takes 2 days, I think. Mine email came in 2 days. So let them know, like, you're not going to get a card in the mail, but it's an actual app that you're going to use, and then you need the email address. But once you get through the whole presentation, you'll be able to put the email address in there. Okay. So, do you guys have any questions on how the discount card works?
No, not about how it works, but more of like, I just know there'll be these people, I don't have a smartphone.
Yeah, I know. If they don't have a smartphone, I'm pretty sure they have to have an email address to get it. That's what stinks. We can send them the old card. They can use the old card.
Okay.
The benefits aren't as great on it though.
Okay.
But yeah, the new card is kind of where you want to go at.
And then the other thing is, I noticed on this slide, it has dental, or not on this one, but the one prior.
Mhm.
It had dental, but I know in the script, it says like, for like the $24.95.
Yeah, so that's
not a change.
That's the old card. Yes.
Okay, so it is included now.
Correct.
And
So the old
all
card,
new card.
yeah, that's the old one. That's the
Okay.
script there. So I mean, you can still say the same things with the old discount card. It's almost the same program.
Yeah, just add dental to what you're saying and not
Mhm.
the price gold whatever. Okay.
Yep, you're good. Good question. Because I know Gio uses that old card as opposed to the new one. He's got to start using the new one. Good. So good question. Any other questions? Nope. Beautiful. Okay. So off that, you can ask them for referrals as well. You know, Joe and Mary, do you see any benefit with, having that card? Right? Yes. Okay, great. Now, the way I kind of get the AIL Plus discount card referrals is based on union buying power. So I asked them, Mary and Joe, you know how union buying power works? They tell me no, they tell me yes. It doesn't matter. I'm going to explain it anyway. Right. So I say the way union buying power works, Mary and Joe, it works that, so the more people that get involved in the program, the more consumers that we can get involved into it as well. And then the more consumers that get involved, the higher discounts we get. Right. So in order to make sure that the program grows, they're allowing you to sponsor a maximum of 5 people to actually get this discount card as well. Right, because it's so new, they want to get a lot of new people involved within it and help out a lot of new families. So you're able to sponsor 5 families to actually get their discount card for free too. All right, so I know you listed, your family already in here. We'll get them out then. But is there anybody else new that you could think of that maybe would need these? Maybe someone who recently retired and lost their benefits, or maybe someone in your family who doesn't have the greatest healthcare coverage, or I don't know, maybe someone who owns their own business. And those are all good examples of how to get kind of the referrals from the discount card.
And so if like you're asking basically for just new people
Mhm.
at that point, you're like, oh, those ones you already gave me, we'll send it to them, no problem.
Yeah, they're like, and I wouldn't really only say that if they ask me about it. They're like, hey, you could tell my sister can have one. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna make sure I go over with your sister for sure. She's number 1 on the list. But there's 5 other spots that you're allowed to fill as well. So I'm like, oh, okay. But the union buying power works because that's how it does work. The more people that are involved in it, like when I first started, the program was, I think it was like 10 to 35%. Then it went to like 10 to 65. Now it's 85. I've been here for 4 years. Right. So it's a pretty big jump in just 4 years of people using the card. Right. And it works with thousands of providers nationwide. So we used to have a big list like CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Jewel Osco, Giant Eagle, trying to think of the things that weren't Philly. it works everywhere, guys. There's a lot of places it works. So that's the good part about it too. Even if they don't have a smartphone, pretty sure they can figure out, they can get on with customer service and figure it out. Wouldn't be too big of a deal. All right. Now, the next benefit that we do set up for our members, or I would say the next benefit they had set up for you, was the family information guide. Okay. So, or FIG for short, the family information guide. Now, the way to make this important to them is to ask them, like, do you have a will or anything like that set up? Like, Mary and Joe, do you have a will guide? Do you guys have a will set up? And they'll be like, what? Yeah. I'm like, dude, you have a will, a last will and testament. You know, if something happens to you, what are you going to do? And they'll be like, yeah, we have one. I'm like, okay, great. I'm glad you have one. All right, this is going to work hand in hand with that. Or if they're like, no, I don't have one. I'm like, okay, well, this is actually a very good start to a will. All right. What this family information guide is designed to do is designed to give their family all the information they need when this time comes, when they're not here anymore. Right? It's designed to guide them to the right information. Right? Because the concern that we have and the problem was that all of our union members have this information scattered throughout the house. But the problem is their family would have to flip through every piece of paper to find it. Right? Instead of having to flip through every piece of paper, they have it in one easy location. Right? So if you want to think about it, you can think about it as an adult child safety kit. Right? Not going to be height, weight, eye color, hair color, fingerprints in there, but it's going to be bank information, life insurance information, you know, funeral information, adult things, right? So the way it's broken down in our slides is kind of from top to bottom, right? So that's the way I work it out with them too as well. Now, there's certain parts in this that I kind of breeze through, and then there's two parts that I make very, very evident to them and that are very important. Because what we're really doing with the family information guide is digging for information that I can use down the road. That's the main reason I'm going over this with them. Right? The first thing that I go over is their information at the top. I say the first thing is all your important information. So your name, your birthplace, social, all that good stuff goes in there. Right? Second part down, it says veterans information. I ask them if they're a veteran. I say, Mary and Joe, did you serve at all? No. Okay, great. Right? If they say yes, I say, thank you for your service. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you for your service. But the other reason why I ask that is because some people you see that were in the armed forces and the military, things like that, they'll have life insurance that's already through the armed forces, right? It's called either VGLI or SGLI. It's a different subject we can go into. But the only reason I ask that is because I want to know if I have to run into a roadblock right there. Right? If I know I have to jump over a hurdle, I want to see if it's in the road first, right? So I don't really go into it right now, right there at that point. Oh, do you have VGLI? Or I don't really dive into it right there, but in the back of my mind, I know that they might have something. Or if they don't mention it, I mention it to them, you know, because it makes me look like an expert. It makes me look like I know a lot, right? So, you know, that's pretty brief too. You know, thank them for their service if they are. Just know in the back of your mind that you might have something through the military or you might have some pre-planned with that, right? One of the benefits of being in the armed forces is they have that. Now, next section down, it says persons to be notified, or actually I skipped the spouses, vital statistics. So all the spouses information, name, birthday, birthplace, social, and persons to be notified. So that would be anybody who would be notified in an event of an emergency. Like, you know, I typically ask people, so if something were to happen to you, who would take care of everything? Would that be your mother? Would that be your brother? Would that be your cousin? Right? So what I'm doing there is getting beneficiaries in their mind already. I'm not telling them that they're going to die tomorrow, but I'm letting them know that, hey, if something does happen, who's going to be in charge of that? Because the chances are people probably didn't think about that. Now, unless they're in a situation where they're getting the will kit program or actually actively looking at this stuff, they're not really going to think about it, you know? So persons to be in charge of final arrangements too, name, address of that person, right? Then the next section down says living will. So it says last will and testament. So if they have a will drawn up, that's where they're going to put the information at, right? Pretty simple. And I always tell people now, if you have a will, you want to make sure you mark down where it's at. Because if your family can't find the will, why did you make it? Right? You might as well not even wasted your time. Right? So attorney, location, and executor should all go on there. Right? Now the next section down, the estate information, that's the most important section on this whole family information guide. Okay. If you skip every single one of those and only do the estate information, you know, you're probably not going to do very well, but you still will gather the information you need from this. Okay. The estate information is very important because that's where their life insurance is going to go. I tell them, I say, this is the most important information that's on here. Right. Say, Mary and Joe, this is where all of your life insurance is going to go. Right. Now, now why this is important is because just alone last year, $1.6 billion of life insurance went unclaimed. It's a lot of money. Right. That's hardworking people putting money into life insurance policies and their families never getting that money. Right. The main reason why is people sometimes don't tell their family that they have it or that their family does pass away and they can't find the paperwork. Right. So what we did here for you guys is we actually have that all drawn out for you. All right. So Mary and Joe, do you have any permanent life insurance in force right now? All right. That's the question I ask them every single time there, every single time. Because what I want to know right now is if they have any life insurance. So I'm just going to, I should have asked them. All right. Now they can answer that typically one of three ways. First way they're going to answer that is yes, I have permanent life insurance. And I'll say, great. Who do you have that covers through, for example? And I'll have them tell me who they have it through, right? So I'm not really like budging on them like, oh, who do you have your life insurance through, right? We're walking through this together. You know, I'm guiding them, all right? I'm gonna say, oh, I have my life insurance through State Farm. I'm like, okay, great. So you're gonna put State Farm, the policy number, and then the amount. So if something happens to you, all your family has to do is call one company, give them one policy number and have that amount issued to you very quickly, right? So that would be one way to do it, answer that. Now, what's good about asking that question there is I know what kind of policy State Farm sells. They're typically term, they're typically universal policies, right? They're usually attached with homeowners insurance and renters insurance and car insurance. They just tack it on there, right? Sometimes it's accidental coverage, right? But the only way I know that is because I've done research on this stuff. So what I would suggest for everyone that's new to do is get a notebook. And every time that someone tells you they have life insurance through a certain company, do a little bit of research on that company. See what kind of policies they have. I've fallen asleep at night looking at my phone looking at life insurance policies, reading the specifications of it, you know? But that's because I wanted to know more. You know, that way I became an expert on it. So I know in the back of my mind right now, they told me State Farm. Okay, great. I know where I'm going to go with that from there, right? So, and there's still some companies that I don't know about. Someone told me a policy the other day. I was like, I got to do some research on this, right? But there's thousands of life insurance companies out there. So, but you'll get to know the ones that are very common. You'll hear some, quite a few, you know, quite often. So that's the first way. They could say, yes, I have life insurance. Right. And then the second way they could say is yes, I have life insurance. I have permanent coverage. I'll say, great. What company do you have it through? And they'll say, oh, I have it through work. Oh, you have it through work. Okay, great. Do you know a company that your work life insurance provides for you? You don't know the company of your life insurance through work. Oh, wow. Okay. Definitely something you want to get looked at. But like your letter said, you know, the reason why we're out here is to make sure you have permanent benefits, because once again, once you quit, fire, retire, your life insurance through work goes away. Right? So we want to kind of hammer that point home to let them know again, hey, you know, it's great that you have the work coverage, you know, not great that it's not permanent, right? It's the whole reason why we're out here with you, right? And I kind of I don't make them feel dumb when they don't know that, but I act like it's insane that they don't know that, because it is kind of crazy. Like if you have life insurance through a company and you don't know who that company is, then I'm calling BS on you knowing that, and then you having life insurance. Yeah. You mean to tell me you're giving this company $65 a month and you don't even know who that is? You don't even know how to contact them? Blows my mind. You know what I mean? So that's one big thing that we have to make sure there is letting them know that they have, like a lot of people are gonna be like, yeah, I have life insurance through work. Well, that's great. Do you know the provider who does that? No? Okay. You might want to get that looked into. I know if I had life insurance through work, I'd look into who provided it for me, right? No, do you know how much it is? Like, you can put the amount. You don't have to ask them how much the amount is. You can just say, okay, that you have it through that company, great. But once again, quick fire retire does go away. You always want to kind of hammer that point home there, right? And then the third thing they could say is, no, I don't have any permanent life insurance in force right now, right? At that point, you're like, yes, great, right? I know we can move forward. Any of those three, I should be like, yes, great, let's move forward. Because if you have to have a big policy, they still have gaps, and you'll learn ways to spend that. If someone has a lot of life insurance, I usually just spend it. Like I will. If you have $200,000 of coverage, I'll spend it on your income protection. You still have final expense protection over you need. So there's ways around it. Never be intimidated by a person that has a large policy. That's one thing I'll tell you. But if they tell you no, you're like, okay, not if, but when you get some permanent coverage, you're going to actually put the company. So, AIL, the policy number, and then the amount, right? So subliminally, I just threw AIL in their head. So not if, but when you get some permanent coverage, you're going to use the policy number and the amount so your family can call and get that issued very quickly. Right. And then if they have any group coverage or hospital and medical coverage, that's where their work coverage will go underneath. So if they say, yeah, I have work coverage, I'm going to say, okay, great. You see where it says group coverage? That's where you're going to put your work coverage at. So you need to find the company, the policy number, and then there's no spot for actual amount because quit, fire, retire, it does go away, right? I'm like, okay, great. So I'll say, now, Mary and Joe, do you have any other questions on the estate information part? No? We're good? All right. So you guys have questions on it? Cody, you got any questions, bud? No? Okay. Financial institution information, next thing down, that's just their bank information, right? You can ask them really quick here. You can ask them, hey, now who do you guys bank with? You guys have a checking account, right? Right. I tend to shy away from you guys have a checking account, right? Because people lie to you.
I know.
No, they'll be like, yeah, I have a checking account. And then when I ask for a checking account, I don't have a checking account, because they just go along with it. So I'd say now this is where, Mary and Joe, this is where you're going to put your checking or your savings information in. Right. So I use PNC. I don't know who you guys use as a bank, but I would put PNC, my information in there. I just give them one of my quick examples. Right. I'm like, who do you bank with? And then at that point I can ask, who do you guys bank with? All right. And they'll be, we use Chase. Okay, great. Now they have a bank now, but that should be flowing through pretty quickly to the financial institution information. And then at the bottom, and then it says safe deposit box. Not too many people have a safe deposit box. I usually kind of just fly through that part. I was like, there's a safe deposit box. If you have one of those, mark it down. Worst thing about a safe deposit box and why I feel like people don't have them is if your name is not on that box, you can't access it. If you want to access it, let's say Joe has a safe deposit box, he dies, Mary's name's not on it. Mary has to go through probate period, which is 6 to 8 months, just to access what's in there. And if God forbid Joe's life insurance policy is in there, the deed to the house, there's a lot of information that some people keep in a safe deposit box that's not very smart to do. Not saying it's the worst thing in the world to have one, just saying that they're not designed the best. So safe deposit box, if they have one, they can put it down at least, right? And then funeral service request. This is another very important part. This is probably the second and most important part. It's what they want to do after they pass away. Okay, why it's important is we're getting them to talk about what happens after death. We're getting that in their mind right now, right? So I was asking them, funeral service request, Mary and Joe, everybody's got their own way of going out, whether it's a burial, whether it's a mausoleum, whether it's a cremation. Just mark it down your way. That way, no one in your family is going to fight about it, right? So this spot at the bottom here is designed to stop family fighting. You can mark down, if you want your glasses on, if you want jewelry on there, kind of clothing you want to wear. There's a spot for special instructions. You know, I like to tell them, you know, if you have anything unique you want done, like if you want to be cremated and shot up into space, or like have a Viking funeral or something like that, you can put that down there, right? And I say that same joke in every single house, and people laugh every single time, right? And it's just to kind of get them off edge a little bit, right? But it is very serious. But a lot of people, if you break them down a little bit like that, get serious and get them to laugh, you know, they're okay with it. You know, the main thing what we want to do in sales is make them laugh and then make them cry, and then they come by, right? We're gonna build up their emotions. Like the presentation should be like an emotional roller coaster with them. They don't know where it's gonna go next, you know? So this is one of the ones we're up and down on, you know? Voice inflection helps with that. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not. Like I bring my tone up, I lower it down based on where we're at in the presentation, based on, you know, what their reaction is. If I see they're not really paying attention, I'll raise my voice a little bit and speak with more emphasis so they understand it, you know? But if they're paying attention, I can kind of fly through things with them pretty quickly, you know? So that's one big thing that is not really on paper, that once you guys do film, you'll see. Like it took me a long time to get the word out of my mouth. I say the word so many times. Like if you guys watch my first film, you'd be like, oh my God, how is this person in front of me now like the same person, you know? But I look at it all the time just to humble myself. I'm like, I know where I came from. I know. I still have it on my computer. So, and I said the word like 400 times.
Do you think you're bad?
I don't know.
I think I'm a little rough with it. Sure, yeah.
One little tip with that
Yeah, okay.
is to know the information a little bit better. It's going to help you forward through it. But if you don't, take a little pause. Just
Instead
pause.
of saying,
Don't say the word just pause.
Yeah.
Take the word out.
Yeah.
It helps. And it helps build, like, I don't know what the word is really with it, but like suspense almost. Like, what's he going to say next?
Yeah.
You know, like Tommy Vina is really good at that. Like bringing you to the point of the edge and then being like not saying anything and then taking it over. Like he's so good at it. Like his cadence is really, really good. So, but back into the bottom of that funeral service request, they can get this notarized and it will hold up as a legal document. Keep in mind, it's not designed to go through court proceedings. It's not designed for that. It's just designed to kind of stop family fighting. There's no one like divvying up assets on this at all. This is just what's going to happen in the immediate time after death. Like this is supposed to take the next 3 to 5 days after death out of the situation. Right? So pretty basic. Once again, we want to make sure in this part we know that, you know, if they have a will set up, we want to know what kind of life insurance they have, and we want to know like how they want to be buried or cremated. Because if they want to be cremated, you know, it's a little bit cheaper than a burial. Right? So I mean, I've had people, you know, like one of my best friends was best man at his wedding. His ex-wife now once wanted to be mummified. So I sat down with him like 3 years ago, and I was like, "How do you want to go out?" She's like, "I want to be mummified." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "How much does that cost?" She's like, "You know what, Drew? I don't know." I was like, "Let's figure it out." So we got on the phones, looked it up. It's 40 grand.
That is a
Okay.
real thing.
I would have never thought. Yeah.
Very expensive too. Yeah, you can be mummified. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things you can do with death nowadays. You can be like cremated and crushed into like a diamond and like
Yeah,
compound
I've
into a
Heard of that
diamond.
one, yeah.
You could be planting it through like a tree, you know, there's all kind of crazy stuff. But, you know, and sometimes you get people telling you all the crazy stuff that they want done. Go along with it. Like the more that they like
All right.
indulging with it, like, yeah, oh, wow, really? Like I've heard a lot of things, you know. I'm doing it for 4 years. I've heard the craziest things. You know, I was telling the guys a story. Like I saw pictures of this guy's brother. He got stuff like kind of like a mannequin almost. He was on his Harley like this in the funeral home. Wow. Yeah, it's like pretty creepy. It was pretty creepy.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I could never do that. I'm glad it was just like he showed me a picture of it and I didn't have to actually witness it. But it was pretty bizarre. Right? So those are typically like the 3 no costs you're going to go over. Yeah, now it's in your brain.
Yeah.
But those are like that's the health services card. That's the family information guide and the child safety kits. Once again, main reason we're doing is to dig for information on it. Right now, if it is a union member, the next part would be their accidental death and dismemberment certificate. Okay, so I don't actually have a certificate with me right now, but I could probably pull one up. Let's see. I have one right in my email, to be honest with you. Let's see. Inbox. But I printed one out yesterday. Let's see. Nope. Yep. All right. So I'll make that bigger. We can do this. There we go. Is it on full screen? Okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I don't know how apples work. All right, so this one here, boom. Oh, someone said chat. Okay. All right, so let's expand it. Oh. There we go. So that's what their AD&D certificate looks like. Okay, let me actually make it a big screen so you guys can see it. Boom. All right, so you can see that this is for this person that we ended up getting a policy on Tuesday night. So Janine Rousa, I sat down with her, and she's very young. She's 21 years old. Right, she's a school bus driver. Right, so she's with the Teamsters Local 777. Now, when I go over this with them, I show them. I say, "This is your certificate for your no-cost accidental policy." Right, and I show them like, "This is all your handwriting, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." Okay, great. So I tell them now who is covered. So all active and retired members in good standing, right? So what that means is as long as they're paying their union dues, they're covered with this program, right? As long as their union is still active with our company, this policy is active for them, right? Now, there's two numbers over here. There's an SG number and an ID number. Those numbers are going to be what they need to make a claim on this, okay? So the SG number attaches our company to the Teamsters Local 777. So everybody in the 777 has the same SG number, right? What's unique to the person is the ID number. So that every person in the 777 has their own unique ID number, okay? So that's the two numbers that this person's beneficiary is going to need if something were to happen, right? And I let them know. So this is both a living benefit and a death benefit, right? So if you lose your life accidentally, you have this money going to your brother, Justin. Is that correct? Right? Because I can see right here, Justin Clifford, right? And she'll say, yes. Okay, great. Right? Now, if you lose both hands, both feet, both eyes, one hand, one foot, one hand, one eye, one foot, one eye, you're probably still going to be alive. So that $4,000 would come out to you. All right, so they get that money if it happens, right? And then anything in this bottom category, so one hand, one foot, or one eye, half that amount would come out to you, so $2,000. I kind of joke with them a little bit. I'd say now $2,000 is not enough to go cutting your hand off about, right? So don't do that. But if that does happen, it's there for prosthetics and things like that. I'm like, okay. They're like, okay, great. All right. So next part I go down is I verify at the bottom all their information. So I also tell them, so now, Jane, this there are some exclusions to this policy, mainly suicide, sickness, voluntary taking of drugs, acts of war, committing felonies, that type of thing. All right. Now, at the bottom is where I need to verify their information one more time. So we're in the home with them. We'll actually cut this bottom part off and we'll keep it for our records. But when we're doing it virtually, we're going to actually send them everything, but we're still going to keep the bottom part, right? So we'll cut the bottom part off again, keep that at our office. Just let them know, hey, we keep this at our office for records to make sure we got these out to you. And so I have to verify everything at the bottom again. So is your name spelled right on here? Yes, perfect, okay. Still at the 208 Lakeshore Lane in Bloomingdale, Illinois, that's correct. Yep, okay. Birth date again, 5/14/1999, that's still correct, right? And then the phone number we have on here, that's your phone number, is that right, Janine? She's gonna go, yes. I'm like, okay, great. So that's the best point of contact for you, right? Now you listed your brother Justin as the main beneficiary, right? What's the best contact phone number for him, right? Because if you passed away, we're not going to be contacting your phone because you probably won't answer, right? So we need to make sure we contact Justin. So what's his phone number?
Oh, that one would have got me.
Definitely.
Sometimes they laugh, all right? But in this case, I knew Justin was 14, So I didn't get Justin's phone number, right? What I did do is I got this lady's mother's phone number, Diane. I said, now, if something happened to you and Justin was under 18, this money would go to what we call their estate, right? So if something happened to you and your brother Justin together, or Justin before you, God forbid, who would you want this money to go to then? He said, probably my mother. I said, okay, your mother. Your mother's name is what? Diane. So what I tell them is on the back of this bottom part. So when I do rip it off and I cut it off here at the office, on the back of it, I make an X and I write contingent beneficiary and I write their mother's name and phone number. Right. So if something does happen, I have their contact information. And guess what? There's one referral right there. Especially if they're not in the same house. If this is someone's brother and sister, guess Joe, your sister, she named you as the contingent beneficiary, right? What I have to do is I have to sit down with you and show you how all of this works. Referral right there, right? Layup referral, even better, right?
Yeah.
So once I have that, I usually get two. You can get two contingent beneficiaries. So they suggest is you have, one, that they're local and that they're over the age of 18. But, you listed your mom as the first contingent. They also suggest you list the second contingent as well. Who else would be next in line? Right, it's another referral you can go see. All right. Then I asked them, Mary and Joe, do you have any questions on how your accidental policy works? All right, say no. All right. You guys have any questions?
Yeah. Is this so you can download like the.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
It just looked different than the ones I've seen. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah, and maybe this is a different union.
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, this is actually on Impact.
Yeah.
You go down to the
Yep.
bottom and click the info certificate, and that's
Okay.
what this is.
For some reason, it only had like United Food.
And then sometimes too, if you don't see handwriting, they might have filled it out online.
Yeah.
If it's like typed in,
Okay.
because they have an opportunity. When they get the card back, it'll say either return this card or go to this website and fill it out online. Some people just go online and they fill it out. I actually want people to fill it out online because it means they're tech savvy and I can work with that real quick as opposed to someone. Well, I would say guy because this was a weird situation. But got this guy, his mother filled this out. That's not his handwriting or her handwriting, or I don't know what it was. It's totally a weird situation. Weird situation, right? But that's their accidental. I ask them if they have any questions. They say no. Okay, great. So once I've explained that to them, the next step with a union member is to go right into the needs analysis, right into life insurance, right? So, explaining term versus whole, which you guys will learn on Monday. Josh will be teaching you guys that on Monday. But everything that I went over today is all the no cost except for the will kit. Okay. So next thing we're going to go over is the will kit, and that's the last no cost benefit. Typically with the will kit, let me see if actually the only thing I don't have is the will kit on here. I have to find it real quick though. I got this. What time is it right now?
2:44.
All right, perfect. Get this done in 18 minutes. Send it.
No, I don't. Do you?
You're about to.
You gonna learn today. You gonna learn today.
I don't know either, but I've literally been thinking about it nonstop. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No.
You don't have a will.
All right. Share this screen here and blow it up here and start it down here. Okay, there we go. So now the will kit, they'll have special response cards for it. I don't know if you've seen response cards for the will kit or not yet, but it'll say like will kit response card, and it'll have their information the same as a union would be, except it doesn't have like beneficiaries or birth date. So you won't know their birth date or the beneficiaries, but it'll say their name, their address, their phone number, their email address, which is great. And it'll say how many kits they need. All right, so this is an active response. Like they saw this ad either on Facebook or they went to the freewillkit.com through Google. They typed in free will kit and it came up. If you type in free will kit, we're one of the first responses that's up there. That's our program. All right. So when you look at the will kit, there's actually two parts. There's a workbook and a document. So I just gave you guys a workbook because it's explanation in there. So the two parts, they look different. The green is the actual final documents. The blue is the workbook. So the blue is designed for them to mess up, to fix, to change, to replace things, to get it all right. And then they transfer everything over to the green copy, okay? So the way it works is what they're gonna do, you're gonna walk them through this very, very basically, right? So what I start off by saying that first thing, it's two parts, green and blue. Green means go, final copy. Blue, that's one you're gonna work on until you get it finalized, right? So the reason why this program is designed is a lot of our union members were having to pay hundreds of dollars to actually design a will. And number one, they can't sit down with an attorney because they're busy, or number two, they don't have the money to do it. All right, so we actually set this program up for a lot of our union members so that they can get their will designed without having to pay a lawyer to do it for them. All right, so I'm gonna walk you guys through how it works. And so I'll let them know, workbook, once again, I tell them, fill the workbook out in pencil. That way you can erase it and change it and fix it. It's easier to do it in pencil, you can erase it, all right? When you do the final documents, do it in pen. All right, so on the screen, and the first slide I would show them is actually what the first page looks like. If you guys open the first page of the workbook, actually the first page is like it'll say their name, checklist, right? And it'll say their name on the top right here, right? On the second page, okay, yep. So the checklist is the first page. You can mention it to them, and once they fill out the checklist, they're ready to do the green version of it. I usually bring the checklist back at the end. That's why I don't mention it at the front. I say, like, Mary and Joe, the first page you're gonna look at is where it's gonna say last will and testament of, right? At the top, why we're not gonna use this anymore because it doesn't work. It says last will and testament of on the top there. So you guys actually have it in front of you. That would be that person who this will is for, right? It says so the first part is we're gonna fill the information out about themselves. Article number 1 is the identification of their family. Right, so who their family is, brothers, sisters, cousins, mothers, aunts, nephews, you can put them all in there. Article number 2 is payments of debts and expenses. Right, so what that means, right, is that you can read it right there. It says the executor is responsible for all the debts and expenses of the estate. Right, so what that means, guys, is someone has a question on this, and that's what I say. These are the exact words I say. It says, Article number 2 says that the responsibility of the estate is on the executor. So what that means, Mary and Joe, is if your estate is worth $50,000 and you die and you owe $20,000 in debt, your executor needs to pay off that $20,000 before they give away the $50,000. If they don't, that executor is legally on the hook for that $20,000. Because all debts are assumed as responsibility of the executor. That's why I tell them, make sure you know who your executor is. Make sure they know their responsibilities, right? You don't just want to dump some debt on somebody. It ruins families, right? So always use that estate to pay off the debt, okay? Article number 3 is actually where most people think about in the will. It's called disposition of property, leaving things to people. Right, so, number 1 on there, or A, if you want, is called a specific bequest. So that's anything that has value to it. So car, house, clothing, jewelry, anything that you want to leave to somebody, right? So that could have real value or intrinsic value, right? It could be valued by your family or it could be valued by many people. Mark down what the asset is and who it's going to on those lines. Now, in the actual workbook, I think there's only like 13 lines or there's 11 lines, but in the actual kit documents, there's 36 spots. So there's more than enough spots. Right? They're like, well, how do I know to put them all down there? Well, what I suggest you do, Joe, is actually make a Word document and make it look like that and just continue it down. Right? And they can print the Word document out and slide right in there. Right? Once they get it notarized, everything in this page is notarized. Right? That's why it's in a booklet together. Right, so that's A, disposition of property, specific bequest, leaving certain things to certain people. Right, now the second part, I don't know why it doesn't go down. The second part of that would be B, which is called a digital asset. So a digital asset is anything that's either costing you money online, or making you money online. So like Netflix, Hulu, Facebook, Instagram, all those accounts have to be shut down. Like this is becoming more and more popular now with social media and everything become virtual. Like Netflix does not know that you passed away. They don't know you died, nor do they care. They're still gonna pull $15 every single month out of your account until you tell them to stop. Right? A lot of people don't know that that's gonna happen, right? Death is sometimes very sudden. Like having this written down at least makes sure that if there is some money left, that's not all taken by companies that you're not even using anymore, right? And a lot of people have auto pay, gym memberships, things like that. That should also be included on there. Anything typically auto drafted from your account should be on the electronic assets or digital assets, okay? Now, if you look, there's no spot to actually put digital assets on there. It just says see Schedule B, or sorry, it says see Schedule A. Now, if you flip to the last page on this workbook, you'll see Schedule A. So the last page of Schedule A has the website they visit, the password, anything they need to do shut down, it's all on there. And once again, if they have more passwords than that, create a Word document, save them in there, right? I'm sure you guys have a tab on your phone that says passwords or a note or something like that. If you look at my phone right now, there's a note in my phone that has all my passwords for every access, right? It's probably not good to have it in there, but it's not like, yeah, I have so many passwords, I can't remember everything, right? Which one's on a 30-day free trial, which one's over, you know what I mean, right?
Before
Exactly, right? So we've all done that hustle. Now, the next part of property is number C. It's called remaining tangible personal property. You can see on the page there. Now, what remaining tangible personal property is anything that is like, I want to say like cups and dishes and plates and like silverware, things that need to be cleaned up that's not necessarily going with somebody, but needs to be out of the house, right? Sometimes people don't think about these things like couches, you know, who's going to take that, right? You just leave one person in charge of it and they deal with it. Just put their name on it, okay? That's what I tell people. They're like, okay, great. The next thing down is the residuary estate, okay? So the residuary estate is anything that's like 401ks, Roth IRAs, CDs, savings accounts. You're going to give a certain percentage of that to people. You can put the percentage and who it's going to, right? That's their whole estate. So that's everything added into their estate, a certain part of that. So if their estate's worth $50,000 and they have 5 kids and they want to give each one of them a certain percent, they're going to break it down by percentage, right? Now, kind of let you know, and I let every one of our members know that if this percentage does not add up to 100, the judge will probably throw this out in court because of incompetence. If a will is not filled out correctly, then that's why it gets thrown out in court. But to be honest with you, if you can't add to 100, then your family probably shouldn't get that money. It's not hard, right? And it says that right at the bottom, like all benefits must add up to 100% total, right? So the next section down, which is article number 4, would be where you would nominate the personal representative. So who's going to be in charge of who's going to be the executor of this, right? Article number 5, nomination of digital executor. So they don't have to be the same person, they can, right? If most families are like mine, one brother is smarter than the other, you know, one brother is more technology savvy than the other. You could ask people around the office, they'll probably tell you that I do all the tech stuff, which is a complete lie. But my younger brother is great with it. So he'll probably be the digital executor, you know? But not every family's like that, but you can mix it up. You can put different ones in there. You can do the same one. It doesn't matter there. It's up to that person. Now, article number 6 would be the nomination of guardian. This would only come into play if they were the guardian of someone under the age of 18. So if that person passed away and they were the guardian of someone that was like 14, 12, 13, it doesn't matter, under 18, that child would go to, into the system, right? Once they're in there, it's not a quick process to get them out. They're in there for a couple months, right? And to be honest with you, if they take this to court and the judge is like, I can see that your uncle would be able to take custody, but the judge doesn't know your uncle from a guy down the street. He's not just going to give your uncle custody because he's your uncle, Like there's court proceedings that go through this. There's a reason why those kids are in these systems for so long. This will prevent that. This will give ownership to somebody.
Did
Right?
I leave my laptop in here, dude?
I don't think so.
I always have my laptop. Never put it anywhere else other than obviously where it's supposed to be, so.
It's gone, right? So make sure I just asked them, are you the guardian of anyone under 18? They'll say no. I'm like, okay, great, don't have to worry about this section. They say yes, let them know, hey, make sure you mark down someone to take guardianship of it. Right? And if you look down, the next one is pet guardianship. You'll read, a lot of people have pets, right? Pets are like your family, like my dog is like my little kid, if something were to happen to me, I would want to make sure my dog went to somebody and didn't go back into the animal shelter, because to be honest, my dog's 13. If he went back in there, probably not going to be there too long, so just to make sure that is nailed home, I always tell people about that. If they have cats, dogs, put that down. Okay. So any questions on those sections, guys?
Is the exeter the same as does it have to be the same as the beneficiary or no?
No, the executor of the will and the estate is someone who's responsible for handling all of this.
Okay.
So the beneficiary of the life insurance policies could be different. It doesn't have to be the same person. The executor is more or less in charge of the estate, what happens afterwards. So giving things away to people that are already in the estate, breaking up like mutual funds, getting all that distributed, and also paying debt too.
Okay.
So they have a pretty big responsibility, right? Now, any other questions? That was a good question, by the way. No? Okay. Cody, any questions, bud? All right. Next article would be article number 8. So article 8 and then article number 9, they're mainly just like, I always tell people it's like legal jargon. It's just what the personal representative and a digital executor can and can't do. Like it shows their powers. You guys can read through it. They can read through it. There's nothing really to explain there to them. It's all pretty basic. I always just let them know article number 8 and article number 9. That's some little bit of legal jargon for you guys to read through. What the executors can and can't do. That's what I say. All right. Now, article number 10, that's where we're special directives, right? That would be any specific things they want done, like earth burial, cremation, mausoleum, who they want there, who they don't want there, what funeral home they want to go to, what kind of dress they want to be laid out in, like everything they want done after death. That's what's going to go there. If they have a prepaid funeral at this place, if they have the gravesite marker at this place, right, they can put all of that in there, right? That's a good time to ask them about their life insurance. If it's just a straight will kit, it's a good time to ask them about it. So Mary and Joe, if you had some life insurance to protect some of these things, that's a good place to put that too, right? Article number 11 would be a couple more provisions, miscellaneous provisions, so more legal jargon. So if you look at number 11, it's a little bit more to look into. Tell them once again, some legal jargon, read into that. And then the next page would be actually where they would notarize this at, okay? So to get this notarized, they have to have a notary. Well, sorry, Cody. I had this pulled up. There we go. I'm like way behind on here. There we go. Sorry, bud. So got the notary. The notary has to sign the top, and there has to be 2 witnesses with the notary as well, right? So I use this part to ask them if they have a bank. Like if I'm dealing with a will kit, I go, now, who do you guys bank with? Because I know I bank with PNC, and I know they have a notary on hand. So who do you guys bank with? If they don't know a notary or notary public, they can go to the bank and they'll do it. If they're a member with that bank, typically for free. I know Chase charges like $1 or something like that. PNC will do it for free, and they usually have to have a notary public on hand. They're notarizing things every single day in that office, right? The good thing about why I tell them to go to a bank to do this as well, because there's 2 built-in witnesses there already. Witnesses should not be like friends, neighbors. I think it'd be your neighbors. This should not be like friends or family. Definitely nobody in this, included in this, should be a witness. Yeah. It's not legal to do that. the notary cannot be a witness as well. The witnesses don't have any legal repercussion to this at all. Okay, so they could just be random people. All right, so when you get this notarized at a bank, the notary will just probably grab 2 bank tellers and tell them to come look at this real quick. Or grab 2 people online and say, hey, can you do this really quickly for me? I'm getting my will taken care of. Can you sign this for me? They'd be like, yeah, okay. Because those people don't have any legal repercussion at all. They're just stating that this person is not a notary and did not sign this themselves. This is legal, right? So you'll see the spots for 2 witnesses, and then at the bottom is where the notary is going to sign it. Okay. Now, that takes care of the actual will itself, right? Now, this is an actual will and living will. So if you flip the next page, it'll say living will, right? So do you guys know the difference between a will and a living will? No, okay. And I asked them that, I asked my members that same question, because a lot of people do know, right? So the main difference between a will and a living will is the will happens when you're dead, the living will happens when you're alive.
I mean, I could have guessed that.
Right. There you go, right? It's pretty easy, right? Yeah, you were. So, but the good thing is it's pretty easy to explain. So a living will is only going to kick in if you're mentally and physically incapacitated, have an end state condition, a terminal condition, or in a persistent vegetative state. In other words, you're laid up, can't think for yourself, can't act for yourself.
Like a hospice situation.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Like when someone's when they're on the ventilator, they're not able to think or talk. This is what this is what this person's going to have happen. So if they want to be taken off feeding tubes, if they want to have a DNR, if they want to, donate their body to something after that, if you know what I mean, all that stuff. Like if you look in that part, there's a bunch of examples of what you can do under D. So that would be the request. Those are kind of examples you can look through to tell people what they can and can't do, right? So that would be the only reason why that would kick in. And if you turn the next page, it'll actually tell them like their limitations. So what they can and can't do, like down on C, it said limitations of the decision maker of the surrogate. So if the person's like, hey, I want to be kept alive for as long as possible, this will prevent them from pulling the cord, right? Now they're also going on that same page you're looking at with D on it or C on it. You're going to have healthcare surrogates. So you're going to have a primary surrogate and then 2 contingent backups. So you're going to have 3 people on this listed. All right. And then the next page over after that, once again, you're going to get this notarized and 2 witnesses sign it. All right. So they'll get everything notarized at one point. Save time. And then that's basically it. The next page is Schedule A. And then the page after that is a glossary. All right. So Schedule A and the glossary. The glossary is some pretty cool terms. Like if you don't know anything when you're reading through it, look into it. And then after I tell them that I explain everything there, I'm like, now, Mary and Joe, do you have any questions on how the will kit works for you? They're like, no, I actually explained it pretty well. I'm like, okay, great. But promise me if you have questions, call me back, let me know. All right, I'm here to help you with that. And then you can basically ask for referrals right after that too. I was able to help you out with this program. I'm sure you saw some value in it. Who were maybe up to 5, you're actually able to refer 5 other people to get these as well. Now, I always tell them, like, keep in mind, you guys have been waiting a little while to get your kits, and we have thousands and thousands and thousands of requests we have to, order or fill in before we actually get to, you guys. But at the bottom, I'm pulling from the bottom right now. Let's make sure your family gets to the top of the list, right? So who are 3 or 4 people you want to make sure we get this out to? It's a good way to get referrals out of it. Just keep in mind, the referrals you're going to get for the will kit are going to be an older generation typically, maybe not in great health, maybe not great candidates for life insurance. But the good thing about the will kit program is it's usually 50-50, right? You can sit down with them and you can explain to them about the importance of having a will. They'll understand the importance of life insurance. Whether or not they can afford it or qualify is a different story, but it's about 50-50 from there. Like, will kits are great. People knock them, but it's either a big sale and you run a little ALP off of it, or it's nothing. You get some referrals. At least you're helping this family. That's the way we have to look at it, But that's the will kit, guys. And I also will send you a video on the will kit from Mark Zipper, the guy who actually created the program. It's like 52 minutes or something like that. But he does a long version of it and explains it, and does a very short version. He does like a 20-minute version, and he does like a 5-minute. So it kind of just basically did what I did, but it'll be on film for you too, right? So that's basically, you know, all the no cost benefits that are with the company. Now keep in mind, you're not going to use all of them at once. You might use some at certain points. I would tell you one thing, less is more usually with people, especially if you see their attention's kind of slipping. You know, don't like keep beating them over the head with these no cost things when they don't need them. But other than that, like, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Hope you learned some things. You guys have any questions for me at all?
Nothing I can think of.
Kind of ask as we go, but I mean, I'm guessing like how you choose like which ones you're gonna bring up. It really just depends on like it's situational.
Mostly through rapport,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
as you find that out.
So, I mean, I feel like that's the main thing. Yeah. Pretty good.
All right, cool.
Pretty good. Learned a
Cool.
lot.
Yes, so you guys, I want you to save my number in your phone.
Okay, cool.
So if something comes up, like you need help with anything, let me know, okay? Here for everybody in the agency, not just my team.
Okay.
Cody, my man, you got any questions, bud? You good? All right, man, drive safe. I'll see you soon.